Hello everybody and welcome back to JoEnglish. Today we have an only English lesson, something I haven't done for a long time. Now, for all the new subscribers who don't know about only English, and we're up to 150,000 subscribers, I just think that is amazing, so thank you so much. So, only English lessons are where I speak only in English. And you need to try to understand what I say. There's also a little exercise for you to do to check your understanding. As many of you know, I've recently come out of hospital after having an operation. And lots of people have asked me to do a video explaining my experience. So that is exactly what I'm going to do today. I am going to talk all about my experience, my operation. Now, this is great because it's also a lesson on vocabulary. I think one of the best ways to learn vocabulary, but in general to learn a language, context is key. So, hopefully, this way you're going to learn lots of new words linked to hospitals, health, operations, so I'm pretty sure you're going to find it very useful. But anyway, let me know in the comments. While you listen, there's also an activity for you to do. Whilst I'm speaking, some of the words which I say are going to appear on the screen. You need to try to use the context of what I am saying to understand the meaning of these words. Do not go on to Google Translate, please. You really must try to use the context to understand. Obviously, you can use the subtitles as well. Then, at the end, we'll go through all the words to make sure you understand them. Okay? Are you ready? Let's go. Okay, so I went into hospital on Saturday evening, the 20th of February, and it just happened to be the 13th anniversary of when I moved to Italy. So a fantastic present. But the problem started the day before on the Friday, and I got up as normal and I just felt a slight pain in my stomach. But I carried on as usual, and it didn't get any better during the day. And it wasn't until early Saturday morning, probably at about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, that I woke up in a lot of pain. I thought I just had some indigestion or something, so I tried to go back to sleep. The problem was, in the morning, the pain was still there. And it was a nagging pain. It was continuously there. So we phoned the doctor and I took some medicine, but throughout the day, the pain wasn't getting any better. And we were advised that if by the evening it was no better, we should go to hospital. Obviously, with the COVID situation and everything, we didn't really want to go. However, it got to about 6 o'clock in the evening and I was in a lot of pain, so we had no choice. So my wife drove me to Martina Franca, the nearest hospital, and I went to A&E. A&E is for accident and emergency, or it's sometimes called casualty as well. When we arrived, I was in a lot of pain and I wasn't able to stand up straight and I wasn't able to walk, so they had to get a wheelchair for me. Then they took me to, I've never seen one before. It was almost like a military tent outside the hospital where they were looking at patients before allowing them into the hospital. And it was there that they gave me a rapid COVID test, which thankfully came back negative. But they also did a battery of other tests on me. There was a test to check my oxygen levels in my blood, and also they did the other COVID test, and they took lots of bloods as well. After that, because I was still in a lot of pain, they took me down to have a CAT scan on my abdomen and also on my lungs, just to check to see if they could find the problem. After the CAT scan, they then took me to an isolation ward. And I must say that the organisation at the hospital in Martina Franca was fantastic. Whilst going from the CAT scan to the isolation ward, I didn't see another patient. The cleanliness was amazing, and obviously this is all due to COVID because they couldn't take me to another part of the hospital until my results had come back from the other COVID test. So by this point, I was actually feeling okay. I was attached to a drip, and obviously they were giving me some antibiotics and some other medicines. But I was sat up, I was talking to the doctors and the nurses, and I didn't feel too bad. I still had the pain, but it wasn't as bad as it was before. That's when a doctor came in and explained they had the results of the CAT scan. And I had acute appendicitis, and they had to operate very, very quickly. Now, I was a bit surprised at that news because I wasn't having a lot of pain where my appendix were, but I'll explain why in a bit. So anyway, I still had to stay in this isolation ward until the results of my COVID test came back. Now, I think they came back at about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. So what they decided to do was operate on me on the Sunday morning. So I was then taken into the surgical ward where they prepped me for surgery. Obviously, by this time I had been admitted to hospital and knew that I was going to spend a few days in hospital. So before the surgery, before they operated on me, the surgeon came to the ward and explained the procedure. And he explained that I was going to have keyhole surgery, which I was quite pleased about because I didn't really want to be cut open. So that was nice to know as well. And again, he explained everything really well, and I must say he was a fantastic, fantastic surgeon. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning when they took me to the operating theatre. And they gave me general anaesthetic, and obviously from that point on I remember nothing. The next thing I remember was being woken up as I was being wheeled out of the operating theatre. I remember feeling quite well. I wasn't in any pain, although to be honest the next few hours were a bit hazy because obviously I was still under the influence of general anaesthetic and lots of painkillers as well. So on Sunday afternoon, the surgeon came round to check on me, to check my pain meds were working, and just to explain the procedure that he had done. He basically said that my appendix was in a slightly different position, which was why I didn't have a lot of pain in that specific area. And he also said there was another small complication, which was why the surgery took a bit longer than usual. However, he assured me everything went well, so I was happy. So for the rest of Sunday, after the surgeon had visited me, I couldn't eat or drink anything. Everything was done via the drip, and it wasn't until the next day that I could drink something. I was still on a liquid-only diet, so I had to have broth, vegetable broth, tea and water, and that continued for the Monday and also on the Tuesday. Obviously there wasn't much for me to do. I was sat in my bed, so I was sleeping a lot and watching a lot of Netflix basically, so that was it, a bit boring. So then on the Wednesday morning I was visited again by the surgeon, and he thought that I was going to be able to be discharged, which I was very happy about, although I still hadn't eaten anything solid. So that morning for breakfast, I was allowed some solid food, some bread and some jam, just to check that it was all okay. So I ate that no problem, and I got ready to go home. The problem was, whilst I was packing my bag, I had a hot flush, and I thought that I was going to faint. So I then had to get back into bed for half an hour to make sure I was okay. Luckily, that passed quite quickly and I was okay. So my wife came to pick me up and I was able to go home. So since I've been at home, I've had to continue taking some medication, some antibiotics and some other medicine to protect my stomach. And also with the help of my wife, who has been the best nurse, we've had to dress my wounds and make sure that the stitches are okay, because soon they're going to dissolve. So they still haven't yet, but hopefully in the next few days they will. So there we are. That was my experience of going to hospital. And I must say again, I must say a big thank you to everybody at Martina Franca Hospital. Everybody, the nurses, the doctors, the surgeon, the organisation was absolutely top class. So thank you very, very much. Right, let me know how much you understood in the comments. And now what we're going to do is go through all the different vocabulary to make sure you've understood. Okay, so the first word was a pain. A pain is simply un dolore. But then I said a nagging pain. A nagging pain è un dolore fastidioso. Sai, non è che è molto forte sempre, però è sempre lì. Then I said A and E, accident and emergency, or casualty. Questo significa pronto soccorso. Ci sono diversi modi per dire pronto soccorso. Forse in America voi avete sentito ER, emergency room, ma questo è più americano. Then I talked about a wheelchair. A wheelchair è una sedia a rotelle. After I talked about a battery of tests. A battery of tests significa una serie di esami. Spesso viene usato in questo ambito della salute, eccetera. Però a battery of tests può anche essere usato in diversi contesti. Then I said bloods. To take bloods, plural. Questo è strano vedere blood con la S plurale. Noi usiamo bloods per analisi di sangue. Then a CAT scan è un TAC. And in the CAT scan they checked my abdomen and my lungs. Addome e polmone. Then they attached me to a drip. A drip è un flebo. Then I said I was admitted to hospital. Questo significa che io sono stato ricoverato. Then I said before operating on me, before the surgery. Significa prima dell'intervento. A surgeon è il chirurgo, and he did keyhole surgery. Keyhole surgery significa laparoscopia. So then I said I was taken to the surgical ward. Ward significa reparto. Surgical ward, reparto chirurgia. Then I talked about the operating theatre. Questo è strano, un teatro. Però operating theatre significa sala operatoria. Then I mentioned pain meds, che è corto per pain medication, and pain killers. Entrambi significano antidolorifici. Then I said after the operation I was pretty hazy. Hazy significa un po' confuso, non ho capito, non stavo pensando in un modo molto chiaro. Then I said on Wednesday I was discharged. Discharged significa dimesso. Then before going home I said I had a hot flush. In America dicono hot flash, ma è la stessa cosa. E significa lampate di calore. And I was very lucky I didn't faint. Faint significa svenire. Okay, then at home I had to dress my wounds. To dress wounds, bendare una ferita. And I had to look at the stitches. Stitches sono i punti di suture. Ok, so let me know. Avete capito tutte queste parole? Com'è andato? Ok, io voglio sapere nei commenti. Ok, thank you very, very much. See you soon.